going to be talking about box number 3. The dice here. Care at home's no longer working. The families worked hard, maybe. We see families that have worked for years to try to keep mom or dad home. And now they're just needing so much care that it's almost impossible to do at home. The home at some point in time doesn't feel like a home anymore. It feels like an assisted living facility because you've got non-medical caregivers coming in all the time. You've got therapists coming in, medical equipment people, family caregivers, and it's just like a revolving door in and out all the time. And it's at the point where we need some help, need other people to help. Maybe mom needs to be at some other place to get the care she needs. So how do you know if your loved one needs nursing care? Is it obvious? Well, in my mom's case, it was obvious. She had a massive stroke at home. From that point in time, it was obvious she needed some care. She had to be in a nursing home. She could no longer be cared for at home. In some cases, it's not so obvious. In Cindy's mom's case, she declined very gradually, and she was able to stay home the rest of her life. And so she just didn't need a nursing home level of care. And in a lot of cases, it's not obvious at all. Maybe you have to get a medical evaluation, a doctor to examine them to determine if they need 24-hour skilled care. So that's a medical evaluation. There can also be a family evaluation or family's input. You know your mom or dad better than anyone. What are they struggling with now that they were able to do well even 6 months ago? Maybe 6 months ago they were out, mowing the yard or raking leaves or walking around the block, and now they struggle to get from their bed to the bathroom, and you're afraid they're going to fall, or maybe they were driving and now they're not, or maybe they were cognitively okay and now they're slipping. So these are some things you look at. You also talk to family members, if there's mom and dad, talk to the well spouse, the one's cognitively okay. What do they think? What do your siblings think? If you got more than one sibling, maybe some of you see some things that the others don't. And if your loved one still has capacity, what do they think? What do they say? I've had people to tell me, it's time that I'm somewhere other than home. I had a gentleman once with Parkinson's, and cognitively he was fine. He said, it's just, it's getting hard. He said, it's getting harder every day to take care of myself, and I need some help. And my kids, some of them lived out of state, some of them were local, but he said they work, they got families, they got kids, they got a job. He said they can't be with me all the time. And he checked himself into a nursing home. He said, I just need the help. I can't do it myself. So how do you know if they need care? These are some clues here. Number 2, do you have authority to make decisions for them? So what if your mom needs to go to the nursing home, but she's fighting you on this? We see this pretty often, maybe especially with early Alzheimer's or early dementia. She may think she's fine, and you and everybody else knows she's not fine. She needs some help. Do you have a power of attorney where you can act on her behalf, and what does that power of attorney authorize you to do? If there is no power of attorney, you may have to get a guardianship. You may have to visit with your attorney to go into court to get a guardianship where you can act on her behalf and be authorized by court to act for her. Number 3, choosing the right facility. They're not all the same. Some people make a choice based on which one's closest to their house. Well, that's one factor that's convenient for you. You can stop by and visit them often, which is very important. But it's also important to look at, and maybe mom fell and broke a hip and she was in a hospital and she needs rehab. Some facilities have a lot better rehab unit than others. So do they have great rehab equipment and good therapists? Bariatric equipment for patients that are very obese, and there's got to be specific equipment to help move them safely without them falling and injuring themselves even more. And a memory or secure unit. Some facilities have got secure units for people with pretty severe Alzheimer's or dementia. Some have memory units if they've declined to some. And it's important to select the right facility that can provide the best care for your loved one if that's needed down the road. Um, so they're not all the same. Uh, you got to pick the one that's the most appropriate, can most appropriate meet the need. Just got to do some research, online research, talk to people. There's no substitute for physically going to visit 2 or 3 facilities. I know that's kind of be a challenge now. It seems like you think we're past COVID, and then sometimes you think we're not. You go to some of these facilities and you stop at the door, you got to mask up and answer a bunch of questions and stuff, but still it's important to visit a few of them to know what's going on. Number 5, does your mom have capacity? If they do have capacity, they may actually check themselves into a facility, and if not, then you may need to take actions. The key is, are they safe? Are they getting the care they need? And where they're getting the care is less important than are they getting the care they actually need, wherever it's at. So we're going to talk about a minute about how to pay for facility care. And if they go to a nursing home, like Cindy mentioned, average cost of care, $8,334 a month in Arkansas. Some of you watching this from other places, and in some states it's a lot more. But nursing home care usually is paid out of pocket at first because people don't know they've got an option. A lot of times they go in a facility and they just start writing a check. And at some point in time, unfortunately, a lot of times it's way down the road after they've written several checks, monthly checks to the nursing home, they may realize, oh, I've heard about this thing called Medicaid that may pay for mom's care. But the key is to apply sooner rather than later, before all of the money is spent down, and to take action to protect as many assets as possible for the quality of life. Especially important if there's a spouse at home, to protect assets for them. There's laws in place to protect a spouse at home, to keep them from being financially destitute, from having to spend everything down before their beloved spouse can get care. But a lot of times people don't know about these laws or know about these protections, and all they know to do is to spend the money. If you're watching this and you're still in good health, but you think, who knows if we'll need nursing home care down the road or not. But if you've got big assets that you'd want to protect, like a family farm or commercial building or rent houses or excess cash, whatever that means, and you want to protect some of these assets, if it's more than 5 years down the road before nursing home admission, you can do things like an irrevocable trust if it's crafted properly, or other types of planning tools. May be able to use fractional interest in property and other things to protect some assets if you do it way in advance of the need. And it's important, if you have assets you want to protect, that you get with your estate planning or elder law attorney. And if you're watching this, that may be us, give us a call and we'll help you devise a plan to help protect some of these assets with advanced planning. But even if it's at the last minute planning, many of the assets of a married couple can be protected even at the last minute. And for our Medicaid cases or crisis planning cases, it usually is at the last minute because the family didn't see it coming. Mom had Alzheimer's, but it seemed like it suddenly got worse, or mom had a stroke, or mom fell and broke her hip, and then combined with the dementia, it is worse and she needs nursing home care. They have to do some planning. So a lot of times we're talking about now for a single person, you look at what assets are available. And the DHS, Department of Human Services, there's certain assets that are exempt. And so the exempt assets may be something like, your home is exempt, your car is exempt, prepaid burial is exempt, personal assets at home. But let's say mom and dad have $200,000 or total estate. I was attempting to make a list of exempt assets. Home is exempt, car is exempt, one car, if you got two, just one's exempt, prepaid burial, and personal assets at home. Other than that, mom and dad's got like $200,000 in countable assets. That might be a combination of checking account, savings account, brokerage account. Maybe they've got a second car and other assets all added together. And usually when we meet with people, it's like, gosh, I didn't know we had that much, just a bunch of stuff, but it all adds up to $200,000. So what do we do to protect some of this? Well, if, again, with a married couple, we can do division of assets up to a certain point, and 100,000 is put on mom's side, 100,000 is put on dad's side. And let's say mom is going to the nursing home, her part would have to be spent down to $2,000. Now this is $100,000 up here, and before she could qualify for Medicaid, it'd have to be spent down to $2,000. That means you're doing like a don't you love my writing here, $98,000 spend down. Well, how do you spend that down? Well, you just write a check to the nursing home every month, $8,000 a month. How many months would it take to spend that kind of money down? Well, 10 to 12 months. And, a lot of that money could just be gone, and half of the estate could be wiped out. There are ways to protect most of this money for the benefit of the spouse at home and not have to spend all of that money. So if the one at home could protect maybe 80 to 90% of the whole thing, that would be a good thing. And that's what we try to do when we're doing planning. If someone needs to go to the nursing home, to help them plan to protect some of their assets. But there's big planning things that can be done to protect assets for the benefit of the spouse at home. And it's critical to protect assets for the spouse at home. They may have health challenges themselves, and it's important to do that. If you're single, you usually can't protect as much, maybe like half for the benefit of the family. If dad's already deceased and mom's got 200,000, and you can protect half of that, 100,000 for the kids, as opposed to spending it all down, which we see people do every day because they just didn't know. It's an emotional decision. If you got someone going to a nursing home, can be a very emotional decision. You may have promised them, you may have said, Mom, I promise you that you'll never go to the nursing home. And now her health's declined to the point where there's no other choice. She's got to go. That's the only option. But you just have to pick what's best for them at the present time. Get as much information as you can, talk to the doctors, talk to everybody, all the professionals, find out what do they need, what's the best care that's available. But even if they have to go to the nursing home, you still don't have to go it alone. You may still need the assistance of an ECC or elder care coordinator such as Ashley to help check on them, particularly if you live out of state. Don't just assume whether they're at home or in a facility that things are, perfect in every way. It's still good to have an outside third-party set of eyes to check on them and report back into you to make sure that things are as they should be and that they're getting their care they need. And is there anything else that can be done? So I hope you get one thing from this presentation. Again, you can decide, or the government can decide for you. And the key is to put a plan in place to make sure you get the plan in the future that you want and you need so that you can get the care you want. Getting started, there's 3 easy steps. Click on the link and we'll listen. You click a link to talk to one of our team members just to see if we can help you. And if so, they'll set a time for an attorney meeting, and we'll visit with you in person or by Zoom. This meeting will take an hour or less, and we'll give you the clarity that you need about your situation and answer any questions that you've got. And if we decide to proceed, we'll get started.